Hey flute players, Mr. Fitz here in my basement once again. And now it's time for line number 61. Notice the sign, band is awesome and orchestra rocks. Or is it band rocks and orchestra is awesome? I forget. But either way works, right? Okay, it's because they're both awesome. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play line 61 for you on my flute, and then we'll talk about how to go about learning it. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So by now you're probably realizing that it's a multi-step approach to learn how to play these things. And I always say do 2 measures at a time. Sometimes you can even break it down into 1 measure if you have to. But the key is you want to start with the rhythm first, okay? And that's the key thing, all right? So let's take a look at the first couple of measures, okay, of this song. Hopefully you can see this. All right, and we're going to say the tas and the TTs with this. And we're going to ignore this slur, okay, when we do the rhythm. And I'll explain about that as we go along. All right, so let's say it together, tap our feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta, ti, 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 ta. All right, so that's kind of pretty important. I shouldn't say pretty important. It's kind of the most important thing is to get the rhythm right. So make sure you can say that with your voice and tap your foot along with me if you need to. Back the video up. Practice it, okay? And then once you can do that and tap a steady beat, then come back to the video. Okay, so step number 1 we just did, which was to say the syllables and tap our foot. Now we're going to play it on our flute on 1 note, all right? I think I'll just do C this time instead of B flat, all right? So it doesn't matter what note you play, but the idea is just to focus on getting the correct rhythm without having to worry about switching fingers. All right, so here goes. I'm doing C, but you pick whatever note you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I made my flute say what I said with my voice a minute ago. Notice that the steady beat, I hope you heard my foot tapping, that's key. All right, so you want to practice that and work on it until you can do that. And then once you've done that, so you want to pause this video and then work on that, and when you're done, come back. Okay, now to step 3. Step 3 is where you will actually name the notes and push the buttons as you name them. Now you could name the notes, you could make this into 2 sub-steps by saying the names of the notes and then saying the names of the notes and pushing the keys, all right? So I'm going to do both naming and pressing the keys at the same time, but if you have to break that down, please do, all right? So here goes, watch. B flat, C, C, D, B flat, C, C, D, D, E flat. Okay? Now you notice that I said it rhythmically, like I said, B flat, C, C, because those are 8th notes. Then D, B flat, then C, C, D, D, those are 8th notes also. And again, as I might have mentioned before, when you're tapping your foot, T, 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 T is how 8th notes go. So you don't ever want to do T, 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 T for like 8th notes because that's double tapping. The 8th note concept is 1 note's on the downbeat, 1 note's on the upbeat. So the beat stays perfectly steady and you play the notes twice as quick because they're 8th notes. You know, 8ths are smaller than quarters, all right? So that's that step. So now that you've got that, or I shouldn't say now that you've got that, stop the video and practice that, and when you're ready, come back. All right, now that you've got that, now it's time to actually play it. But we're still going to ignore the slur, okay? So I'll talk about the slur. That's going to add a 5th step, okay? Right now we're on our 4th step, which is to actually play it and keep a steady beat with our foot. So here goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you want to practice that and get it down. So stop the video, practice it, try to get that steady beat going, all right, and then come back. All right, so now the last step is to add what we call the articulation. Articulation markings are things like slurs, okay? And at this point in your studies, the only articulation marking that you have is slurs, I believe. Yeah, you don't have any other type of articulation marking. Slurs are introduced on this page. And what happens with a slur is it smoothly connects two notes together by you keeping on blowing the air and switching your fingers between one note and the next. But the key thing is that the switch happens exactly in time. So I'll play now the first two measures with the slur, okay? And so I'm going to add in the slur. So you notice between that D and the B flat, I did. And I did them exactly one beat apiece. I didn't do anything like, or I didn't play them faster, okay? So the key thing is when you have a slur, it's, in this case, there's two quarter notes connected. It's as if it's a half note with one beat being on D and one beat being on B flat. So you blow the air straight through and your fingers make the switch right on that second beat of that slur, okay, if that makes sense. All right, so that's what you do. Now, obviously, that's just the first two measures, right? But use the same process with this. Just follow the same process, okay? That is, say the rhythm first, okay? And say it with your voice, tapping your foot. Once you can do that, play it on your instrument on one note, any note that you want, doesn't matter. Then name the notes, push the buttons. Okay, oh, and by the way, the slurs are left for last. Any kind of articulation markings are left for last. So when you're saying it at the first step, you want to leave out any slurs, okay? So then finally, the fourth step, you're going to actually play it. Okay, third step was to name the notes and push the buttons. And then finally, fourth step, play it. Fifth step, add the slurs. I know I kind of got a little bit off track there. All right, but have fun working on line 61. Go for excellence.